Welcome back, Naughty Nation. It's good to see you again. Today I'm going to talk about something very near and dear to my heart, my tools.
The Naughty Artisan.
I've had a lot of people ask about what exactly do I use when I'm working in my shop. You're in my shop right now, welcome. And I want to take you step by step through some of the key tools that I use, and I'll leave links below for if you want to get them exactly the same. I do want to put a disclaimer out there. You're going to see I do have a lot of Dewalt here. I'm not particularly fan more of them than others, but when I started buying out early, I did start buying with Dewalt tools, and I started using their batteries. And once you're in with the family of batteries, you kind of stick with it because I don't want to have 15 different chargers and 15 different types of batteries laying around for my tools, so I kind of stuck in the family. They've worked great for me. They've been really reliable, but there are other tools that you may be able to get the job done with. These are just the ones that I use. First off, I got my trusty measuring tape here. I use a Stanley measuring tape. It's really accurate, so when I'm out on the job and I need to work, it's handy to use. I clip it, nothing fancy, but that's the particular one I've used. I've had the others that I don't like as much that are cheaper, where this bit will wiggle around a little bit and give me a little bit of variance or more than I'm comfortable with in my measurements. This measuring cup by TCP Global is hands down one of my favorites, especially for small amounts. When we're doing epoxy, I find myself frequently doing inlays or smaller amounts of pour. The reason I like this cup is if you look right here, you'll see that it has 1 ounce measurements. So it was 1, 2, 3, 4, rather than other ones that just have 5 or 10 or increments where you're trying to guess in between. So if I just want to pour 4 ounces, for instance, I can do 2 parts of my A and 2 parts of my B and get where I want to accurately. They're cheap. I get them in bulk. We use them all the time. It's one of my favorites. I've used a lot of different ones, but these are the ones I like the best. Speaking of epoxy, when you're working with it, you want to put the right amount down evenly over your table. Stone Coat Countertops makes these trowels. They're wonderful. They're 1/8 inch square notch trowels. They leave just the right amount of material behind, so I'm not wasting a ton of material that's just going to self-level and spill off the table. I highly recommend these. When you're working with your MDF, you're going to want to screw it a lot. So I use a lot of glue, just Type Bond 3, and then this is my impact drill. I use a Dewalt. When you're getting your cordless tools, make sure you get a minimum of 20 volts in your tools. They make I think it's a 10 volt. It just doesn't hold up in the workshop. Your batteries will die too quickly on you in the middle of a job or a cut or whatever. I like this impact drill. It's handy, holds a charge for a long time. It's worked well for me for driving in nails and those kind of things, or screws. Driving in screws, these are my favorite screws. They're the Power Pro. It's the Power Pro screw. I love these screws. I've used a lot of screws, particularly when you're using an impact drill. If you get a cheap screw, it will torque off the head and break if you get a cheap screw, and it really just sucks because then you got to dig it out or drill it out, or you have a problem you've got to deal with. These are a little bit more, but man, I can just bang them out, get my jobs done quickly, and when you're doing it for a living, time is money. So the more efficient I can be and have more reliable tools, the better it is. That's why these work really well for me. They've got a star tip, it comes with all the screws, and I'm able to drill it in, get a really nice tight fit on my MDF when I'm gluing it. Matter of fact, I get such a tight fit, my seams are very rarely a problem because I'm able just to sand it and paint it. So we're doing a really good job there. This is my regular variable speed drill. You want to get a variable speed drill rather than just a regular drill because I can go slow, or I can go slow, or I can go fast, depending on what I need. This is the drill that I use when I'm mixing my epoxy. This is the paddle that I like. It's all covered, as you can see, I use it frequently. I like this particular paddle because it's got a little bit softer edges, so I can work the edge of my bucket and I have less breakthrough with it. As a matter of fact, I've never actually busted through the edge of a bucket because I use these. It's flat on bottom, so it turns up the stuff on bottom. I'm able to ride it around the edge lightly without just tearing my bucket up. So this variable speed drill and this paddle together do an amazing job when mixing up your epoxy. It really allows me to thoroughly mix that epoxy together. When I'm just tapping in some drop edge or whatever, I use a brad nail gun. It's just a regular DeWalt. You click into your air compressor. I use a regular pancake compressor you can get anywhere. I've got several different brands. I use a Husky, I've got a Dewalt one, and a couple different ones. They all do well on this gun. It keeps me consistent depth. I can jam, if I get a jam, I'm able to clear it real quickly so I can continue to work. And it's got a speed adjustment on the bottom so I can adjust the depth of the brad as I put it in. And it carries, it does anywhere from, I think, 2.5 inch down to as small as a 1/4 inch. I've used on these before. Man, these are awesome. Hand router. This thing is my workhorse. In this case, I am recommending this Dewalt palm sander right here. It's got variable speeds here so you can adjust it. It's great. I've used it a ton and it's always worked for me. My bit that I prefer to use is a 1/4 inch Roundover, which you see here. As a matter of fact, I just keep it in this router at all times because I use it so frequently. I've actually used several different routers and I've burnt them out very quickly. Everybody knows that when you're working with epoxy, epoxy hates square edges, and so we have to round them out nicely so that it flows over and we get those smooth fronts that everybody really works hard to get. If you don't have a good router bit and a good router, it really makes it difficult for you. This has been a real great tool for me. Next, I want to talk to you about sanders. I'm going to show you a regular price one, and then I'm going to show you the very high-end ones that I use. If you're going to do this professionally, it might be worth it to invest in a little bit more higher-end tools that you can use. I'm going to show this sander first. I use it frequently, but it's not my go-to when I'm in the shop. I have 2 others that I really like, but they do cost a bundle. When you're going to get your sander, make sure that you have one that has an adjustable speed on the side. A lot of them will just be a set speed on or off. You really want to make sure you get the one that has the adjustable speed like this one does. There are times when you have to slow down your sander, particularly when you're working the edges, so you don't burn through your epoxy and eat it up. This is a great little sander. It's you can find it anywhere. I'll drop the link again, as I said before. And you can use it anywhere. My go-to sander is the Festool's. This is the ETS 125. I really wrestled with buying these, and I put them in my cart multiple times for months before I actually pulled the trigger on them. They're quite expensive, particularly for sanders. This sander alone will cost you 5 or 6 times more than that one will. It's cut my work time down by at least 25%. They've got their own line of high-end sandpaper that go with these, and it's a variable speed as well, and they move really quickly and get a really fine finish. I don't have the cleaner on here, but they also have a HEPA quality air system. So as you're sanding, they've got these amazing ports, better than anyone else I've used, that really just keep the sawdust out of the air. And not just for the fact that you're breathing it, but it helps make my pads last longer because they're not gunking up and filling up with sawdust and making it so that I've got to change the pads as often. They stay really clean because of the vacuum system that comes with these. So I use this for my finish sanding. All right, my big dog workhorse sander of the shop is this Rotex. It's the 150, so it's a nice big 6-inch head, and man, it's a 1 horsepower gear-driven sander. So when I have a large area to sand, this baby tears it up. What used to take me 3 hours to sand to a finish, I can do in an hour with this. And I really wrestled with buying this one. This has probably been the best money I've spent in my shop. I really love this sander, and I'm able to get really high-end finishes in a lot less time than before. Man, this has been worth every penny. Okay, we got a Hitachi in the house. This is an angle grinder. I use it all the time, helps to clean up. I've got a flap disc on here. These flap discs are great for cleaning up edges or real rough stuff. When I'm working with a live edge table or whatever, and I'm cleaning that edge up, man, this makes really fast work of it. And you can really speed up your project and the efficiency of it. It's been a great little angle grinder. I've got several other angle grinders in the shop. This is kind of my main one, but I've got a bunch of like Porter cables and just some from Harbor Freight. They do the job as well, although I've burnt them out pretty quickly as well. Okay, speaking of sanding, I want to talk to you about protection while you're doing it. For a lot of years I was reckless. I would breathe in the dust as I created it, and it's really, really bad for your health. I would get sick. MDF sawdust is very, very fine, and it's a composite made with things that aren't good for you. So there's things like formaldehyde in it, so you really want to make sure you don't breathe it in. I used to use this one. I got it wherever I want. It does both vapors and sawdust, but it was really bulky on my face and I didn't like wearing it. It felt restrictive over time and it would kind of come loose a little bit on the bottom. Just didn't fit my face as well. So I bought these higher end masks right here, and they've been wonderful for me. This one in particular is designed to work in a wood shop and filter dust out and those kind of things. It's a smaller profile, doesn't have that weight on my face. I'm able to wear eye protection or shield a whole lot easier without having the big filters on the side banging you out. It's got filters, they're still here. They're just smaller, designed more for a woodworker. A whole lot more comfortable, and I don't feel claustrophobic like I do sometimes. All right, the big brother of the mask I just showed you is this one. This one's designed specifically for vapors. So everybody knows when we're working with epoxy, we frequently use spray paint. Spray paint's not good to breathe, particularly long term, and we work with it every single day, so we started getting smart and using this product. This is designed specifically for vapors. As you can see, it's a little bit larger. I'm holding it upside down, but it fits on my mouth and gives me a really good seal. And when I'm working with spray paints, I'm not getting sick, I'm not getting lightheaded because this does a great job of blocking those fumes out. All right, when I get to the end and I'm buffing and polishing my job, I just use this Chicago Electric buffer and polisher. It's got multiple speeds that I could switch. The reason I like this the best, it's got a hook and loop system, so I can switch the heads out quickly and get rocking and rolling and really get a nice finish on there. And it's really affordable and it's so cheap. If it breaks, I just get another one, or if I lose it, I just get another one. I think it's less than $50, but we polish every one of our deals and this is awesome. When we're polishing, there's two products we like to use. I'll use Stone Coat's polishing compound to cut it and really get it cleaned up. And then the final thing that we do is this Liquid Smooth. This is one of my favorite ever. It smells beautiful. I could almost drink it. And then you polish it off and your countertop feels and looks like stone with this product. It's amazing. I don't know what they put in here, but it's some kind of black magic. You should really use this product. Torch. Every epoxy artist uses this on the regular basis. I've gone through a lot of different torches and a lot of different gas cylinders. This is by far my favorite. It's the Burns-O-Matic automatic trigger. So it starts up just like that. And it's really, really consistent with me. I just use this camping gas. It's a propane. They come in the green bottles. Seems like the smaller bottles run out a lot quicker on me. And the other reason I like this nozzle in particular is it doesn't put itself out when you go upside down when you're working with that. A lot of the other ones I have in the other nozzles, when I went to turn it to work with it, they would go for 4 or 5 seconds or maybe 15 seconds and they would blow themselves out. This nozzle does a great job. It's frequently used to knock out air bubbles and to put effects in. I highly recommend this nozzle used with this propane gas. Spray bottles. Something as benign as this can really be a pain in your butt if you don't buy them right. I really like these Zepp commercial bottles. I'm able to get a fine mist, quickly adjust to a large mist. I mix my isopropyl alcohols with my micas in it, and I use it when I have water as well. I'm able to adjust the mist quickly. They work consistently over and over again. I've tried other bottles out. They'll break on me. The triggles will break on them. It's just, these have worked the best for me. I've had the best experience. I'm sure you will too. It's just your Zepp commercial bottles. You can find them anywhere. I'll leave a link like we talked about before. Spray paint, I want to talk to you real quick about that. Rust-Oleum spray paint is what we use exclusively. We don't use any other kind of spray paint. It is consistent. We use a satin or a gloss base finish on it, and then we're able to work it and really, really get a good effect. Also, it off-gases very, very quickly so that we're not yellowing our epoxy. Highly recommend the Rust-Oleum. All right, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty, but I really want to show you the finest detail, the things that we use. My favorite chop brush is this Wooster Shortcut right here, and I'll leave a link down below for it. I like these for a lot of reasons. When I deburr them, there's not a lot that comes out, and if you notice, the bristles are blonde rather than a black. I used to use a black one, and every once in a while you just miss one, right? You're chopping away and it gets in there. The blonde bristles tend to blend into the background. If you find them at all, they're barely noticeable. When I use the other ones with the black bristles, They were really noticeable, and if you missed them and they're there, it was like, it's all I could see in my top. It would drive me crazy. They're a little bit spendy, but when you're working professionally, you want to make sure that the tools you have work. This does the job. I use cheap chip brushes that I buy at Harbor Freight or whatever for other purposes, but when it comes to chopping and finishing my epoxy projects, I always use this brush. Genesis heat gun. This is hands down my favorite gun. If you come to my class and I find you with my gun, I will take it away and put it back. This is the gun I use all the time. As you can see, it's well worn. I've got burnt epoxy all over it. This thing's beautiful. It has a multi-speed adjustment down here. And it has this little nozzle here that focuses the air and be able to blow hard or soft and really get that ripple going when I'm trying to put an effect in my epoxy. Heat guns are great over torches for really working those designs and getting them in. It doesn't burn so hot that it's gonna burn my epoxy, but it's hot enough that it loosens that up and allows me to work with it. I love this heat gun. All right, when I build templates, when I'm on the job site, I like an Elmer's glue gun. You can get this anywhere. It's really handy. I like this one because it's small. There's really some big ones. It sets up quickly. It's just got the little drop down stand there. It warms up. I get my glue on there. I lock my frame in and I'm ready to rock and roll. I recommend this glue gun. I've got two circular saws I want to talk about. Put this one down. It's heavy. First one, just a regular circular saw. If all you're doing is countertop epoxy, a circular saw is a staple in every workshop. If all you're doing is working on countertops and cutting mostly MDF, this tool's great for you. It's reliable, it's got a battery on it. I've got the larger battery here because I use it all the time. When I'm cutting MDF, this is what I use. Okay, for those of you who don't know, I don't only do epoxy, I do a lot of woodworking with epoxy as well. When you're cutting thick hardwood, or a lot of your wood products over MDF, this baby's the tool you want. This is a Dewalt Circular Saw. It's got the worm drive in it, they call it, and it really kicks in and will just cut through your thickest wood, where the other one would stall out on me and choke and just wasn't quite adequate. This thing makes it just like warm butter and you slice right through. All right, this here is the Craig Plunge Saw, or a track saw. When we're working on countertops, we're working with large sheets of MDF. They're 8 foot by 4 foot. They can be really, really awkward to cut. I used to work them through the table saw. I have tables and offshoot tables and all that, but it was still kind of awkward to get that factory edge on my boards that you need when you're working with. I bought this recently. I was gonna buy a Festool's one. This one's probably $400 less than the Festool's model. I found it to be every bit as robust. It rides on a track once you set it up. I can draw a line, I can drop my edge on it. This plunge saw gets it and just gives me a perfectly 90-degree factory edge cut without having to run it through a table saw. I just put my MDF up on these sawhorses and I run it through, and man, it is smooth. I love this saw. It's one of my favorite purchases lately. All right, Naughty Nation, and that's my review of the tools that I use in my shop. I hope you found it beneficial. Like I said, you can have other tools that'll work for you. Those are what work for me and have got the job done over and over and over again. Not only do we teach epoxy in epoxy classes, but we're an active production facility as well, building high-end and fine furniture and countertops for people. So I'm really excited that I was able to show this for you. If you had any comments, or is there a tool I missed that you think I should know about, drop me a comment below. I'd love to hear about it. Thanks for watching. Hey Naughty Nation, if you like this video, please subscribe to us, ring the bell so you can see our projects when they come up in the future. Leave us a comment, drop us an email. We'd love to hear from you.
The Naughty Artisan. The Naughty Artisan.